What's going on, Military Cashflow family? Hey, what's going on, Mike? What's up with you? Well, really quick, I love the 5 pillars American. I love that little flag in the
Yeah,
background, that little custom work in the background you
I'm trying
got.
to step
That's
out of
pretty
the way. I
cool.
don't know which way to go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
man.
pretty
So
dope.
this right here was a gift from one of our consulting clients, one of our first consulting clients. We were able to triple his business in less than 60 days. So it
Ooh.
was fantastic. And I went down to speak at one of his events, and he gave two, one for me and one for Shelby. Very nice guy. He's crushing it out there. So if anybody's trying to go out to the Surf City, Wilmington, top sale area to buy vacation rentals, that's kind of his niche now. And he's building his team out there. So guys, let us know. We can make that connection for you. But yeah, man. Beyond that, I mean, just taking it day by day, the Amazon automation store is finally fully functioning. And so if you guys haven't listened to the Adam Whitney episode, his second episode, he talked about Amazon automation. And honestly, he was the one that kind of introduced me to it. I've been researching it for years. I'm not a tech guy, so I messed it up the first couple of months, but it took me about 3 months when really it should take about 1 month. And it's cranking out money very beautifully. It's doing what it's supposed to do. So that's now up and running. That's going well. Still struggling with some damn refinances, man, and doing some other stuff. But beyond that, man, I'm grateful. I'm blessed. I can't complain, man. How's everything going with you?
It's going well, man. I'm changing property managers on one of my units, and that's been really great. Especially we just got some guys cleaned out, and I got one vacancy right now because we had to evict someone who was taking advantage of the system. If you guys listen to the episodes enough, I probably talked about it a little bit, but all those guys that have been taking advantage of things like that the government's given you, dude, your time's coming, man. Your time is coming, dude. Like the people that are taking advantage of the coronavirus thing. I'm not saying that like everybody's doing it, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people out there scamming and jamming, man. Like, so,
Yep.
and it's finally starting to catch up, right? So we got that person evicted. Same thing with the PPP loans, man. Those people that are scamming and jamming with the triple P loans, dude. Your time's coming. But the vacancy that we have, the little bit of I guess gratification that I'm getting now because I had a tenant that didn't pay rent for probably like 8 or 9 months because they were literally just taking advantage of the coronavirus situation, even though they were still working. And they were just claiming they weren't working right. And finally got that person evicted, but now we got a vacancy there. So we're getting a bunch of applications in, right? And I'd say about like 4 or 5 of the 10 applicants that we got on that one unit, they had recent new large collections on their account. Guess what those $8,000, $10,000 collections were? They were from not paying rent, right? So likely they were the same people. There were people just like the person that we just kicked out that we sent stuff to collection. I'm not going to get that money back. It's
Right.
whatever. But
Right.
those same people are going out there and they're looking for new apartments to take. And guess what, man? There's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to rent to you because you have a large collection on your account that's straight up, from the last place that last place that you were skipping rent from fraudulently. So I'm getting a little satisfaction there. I'm seeing those. I'm like, nope, we're not. I'm not trying to rent out to anybody who was taking advantage of the system. So again, that's not to say that I might get some hate on that or whatever, but that you guys know that there's a lot of people out there that are taking advantage of the current situation. And I know there's some out there that, actually their job really did get affected, but I think I'd probably say about 40% of the people out there, maybe even more, are just scamming and jamming, dude. Like, so, but that was a long tangent. I'm really excited about that. We got somebody coming in, clearing up that vacancy, pushing up rents from like 725 to like 800. So pretty
Nice.
pretty
Good
excited
job.
about that. So we're looking for that to kind of stay stable. And then other than that, just got some family photos we're about to take soon. But today's
Nice.
guest, Mike Ford, man, another Mike on
The
the show.
man,
And
the man, the
yo,
legend.
you guys, stay tuned for this episode. Like Mike drops some, he gives out some great information, great content for transitioning soldiers, some
Mm-hmm.
action steps that you need to take in order to set yourself up for success. But he also goes into some of the to some of the things that really changed his mindset. And he opens up and he kind of explains some of the situations that he went through when he was deployed, that kind of shaped his mindset and shaped where he's at today. And I just think this is a very powerful story, powerful information, great mindset. Listen, it's not all about real estate, but it definitely can be applied to real estate. Mike.
Yeah. So a lot of people ask me, when is the pivotal moment that Mike Glaspie started to make the transition into entrepreneurs? And guess what, guys? It was with the day I met Mike Ford. Not even lying, right? I'm dead ass serious. I met him in academy and the sport by the gloves. He came up and he said something and it took off from there, man. So Mike Ford, not only you got to listen to the end, because everybody here wants to know how you can take your business and get a government contract that'll pay you up to $250,000 without any other big paperwork approval. Everybody wants to know that. You got to wait to the end for that. But in between there, he is talking a lot about some of those skills that the military didn't teach him that he had to learn in order to create jobs for himself when he got out. That's the key, guys. These jobs did not exist until he created them. Think about that. He's got government contracts paying him $250,000 and he's creating jobs that's paying him six figures. Yep. Without further ado, let's just get right to the episode.
What's going on, Military Cashflow family? Today we got a special guest, Mike Ford. Thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate that. We're looking forward to hearing about your journey. So let's start it off, man. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are, what you're doing, and I guess your involvement in the military?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, thank you guys for the opportunity to get on here and just share with the community. My heart is still in there, even though I'm not in the military anymore. I was in for 11 years. I transitioned out in January 2018. But all of the guys that were either in units I was in or deployed with me or spent any amount of time with me, they're always hitting me up, asking me about, what's it like on the outside? Is it as scary as they make it seem? And I'll tell you guys, a spoiler alert. When they say the grass is greener on the other side, okay, so we'll get into that later on. But military for 11 years. I was an intelligence analyst from day one. I right out of high school, I probably spent about 3 or 4 months hanging out at home, going to school to become an automotive technician. And my brother's in the military. He's a sergeant first class. He's 19 years in, about to hit his last year and get out. He doesn't know yet, right, on that fence. But I'm working him, trying to massage him so he knows it's okay, it's safe out here. When I joined, I actually went to the recruiting station that my brother was recruited out of. And so his recruiter sat down with me and walked me through the whole process and really took care of me. I know I've been joking about the transitioning part, about how it's safer out here, but there's some really incredible benefits that come with being in the military as well. And they really took care of me. I remember sitting down and looking at this sheet of paper of jobs that were available, and the recruiter saying, so you did this, you tested well, you can do whatever you want to do. And I looked at the jobs and I went right to the column that said bonuses. And I was like, $60,000, that sounds good. I want to do that. He's like, nah, you don't want to be a truck driver. It was an 88 Mike. And it was 2007. So he was like, you don't want to be an 88 Mike. You don't understand what these guys have to go through deployed. I was like, okay, let me go down the next highest bonus. And he's like, MPs, I'll be an MP. He's like, you don't want to be an MP. You don't realize what them dudes do deployed. You don't want to do that. I'm like, well, I don't want to. What should I do then? You tell me. And he pointed to the intelligence analyst space. And what sold me on it was kind of funny. He just said, that way, when you have conversations with your brother, you can tell him, hey, I can't tell you what I'm doing because it's top secret. I thought that was cool. So I was like, let's go ahead and do that. So day one, been San Antonio, Texas, first 5 years, deployed to Afghanistan for 12 months to Bagram. I was on the joint is like the joint debriefing and interrogation, something or the other center. Then I came back, had a warrant officer that said, hey, Mike, you need to be well-rounded. So he said, go to a tactical unit. I said, well, where's the best one to go to? He told me the 173rd. So he sent me to airborne school, went to airborne school. After that, and landed in Italy for 2 years, deployed again. And that time I was on a cop and I was able to go out on missions with some of my guys and stuff. I say missions, I only did one. And if you ever hear, my, the way I tell the story about that, man, is kind of comical, but I went out and we just got a lot of snow. And then after that, really, I think that was just God saying, buddy, you need to chill out. You wanted one, I gave you one, you're good. So I ended up coming back, hung out for a little longer in Italy, then transitioned or got orders to come down to Fort Bragg. And then I joined the 95th Civil Affairs Brigade. And then after that was just hanging out, man, just helping my soldiers get educated on how to be better analysts, trained a couple of teams, deployed them out to parts of Asia, and then turned around the last year or so, started my transition process, learned about the MSSA program, transition, and now I'm an IT professional working at Lockheed Martin, making well over 6 figures doing that now. That's a quick
man.
background.
I love it, man. And for the audience that doesn't know, me and Mike go way back, like both flats on a Cadillac. Yeah, man. And I remember, right when I actually started my journey, you were a pivotal part in that transition for me too, in a mindset piece, man.
Yep.
And so you went through a lot through your career, but if we take it back just a little bit further to when you first joined the military, what was that deciding factor? Was it just the fact that your brother was in? Was it the fact that there was bonuses at the time, or was there any other kind of tugging factors that said, you know what, I really want to join the military?
Yeah. I'm gonna be real with you guys. I'm not real patriotic. Like, guys are like, man, I want to go defend my country. I want to go fight the enemy. That wasn't really what moved me. What moved me to make that decision was heartbreak, Mike. My heart got broken, bro. I was dating this girl. And I remember I was getting my dad has 20 plus years in the Coast Guard. We've got retired Marines, retired airmen, retired police officers, a lineage of our family members serving in uniform. So my dad was like, hey, Coast Guard or Navy or whatever. I'm like, Dad, I don't like water like that. Like, what do you want me? And then I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I talked to the girl dating at the time and she was like, if you leave, I'm not waiting for you. This is high school. These are high school days, right? You get me how ridiculous that sounds? High school days. But I was so in love. I was like, man, you know what? Let me hang out. Well, things didn't work out. So I was like, I'm out of here. There's nothing left here for me to be holding on to. So that was probably the thing that really moved me over, was a desire to get away from where I was at home, to change things, just because it just felt just the same, right? Like no one's really doing anything. I see the same people all the time. I'm out of school, but it still feels like I'm in school. The potential, I have friends that are like getting in trouble and losing their minds doing stupid stuff. And I'm like, I'm a joy, man. And it wasn't until I joined the military that I realized like how important, how significant of a decision it is and just what it really means. Cause I was thinking about my brother. I'm all like, I'm going to get to go and fight with my brother. Like I'll be able to help him with intel stuff, and fight alongside. We actually deployed. We were in Afghanistan at the same time, just at different parts of Afghanistan. And it was so, I had such a change of heart when I joined from, I'm joining because of heartbreak, to when I transitioned, when I left AIT, for some reason, I'm waiting for the taxi to come and get me. And as I'm waiting, I had another buddy of mine, Duran, who's sitting next to me. And I just start crying, bro, like sobbing. And he's like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong with me. I guess I'm just going to miss everybody. I didn't realize that the level of tightness when you go through, for us, we're like, it's just basic training now. But if you know nothing, right, you've never experienced anything like that, the level of attachments you grow to the dudes or the people, your soldiers, your battle buddies that are around you, it's significant, you know. And it just felt like after that, like that was it. I guess I gotta say bye to all my friends now. So I don't know if that really kind of, if that helps with or that answers the question really, but I guess for me, I think about that decision, and just in the process of going through life, the heart changes, the mind changes, right? We talk a little, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into mindset and things. The mind changes. And if you are not, I think if you're not in the position this is for anybody, if you're just not in a growth oriented mindset, right? We talk about, growth mindset. If you're fixed versus growth, you have a hard time making decisions and moving, because there are places in your life, goalposts in your life that you can't see that are designed specifically for you to get there. But the only way that you're going to get there is that you have to be open to doing things you thought you'd never, ever, ever do. You never thought you do. Because it's like the little bits of nuggets that come from those other moments that lead to that part of your life where you needed to get to in order for you to be where you are right now, So yeah, man.
Yeah, man. I like your thought process through that entire journey, right? And you talk about the growth mindset. What's something that I guess helped you do that? Because I see a lot of I assume, well, let's start here. When you got out of the military, when you ETS, what was your rank?
I was a staff sergeant.
Okay. So I see a lot of like NCOs, junior NCOs get out, right? And they don't really have a plan, right? And they don't really have that growth mindset. And you kind of talked about the grass is greener on the other side. And right now you're sitting in a position where everybody talks about like, oh yeah, man, I'm going to get out. I haven't done any networking. I haven't really thought about it. I haven't made any plan or anything like that, but I'm going to get out and I know I'm going to make six figures because I have this, I was a soldier and I defended the country and, this is how much I'm worth. And that's a common misconception though. But here you're actually in that space. So how were you able to make that transition smoothly? What was the plan that you made to actually attain that, where you're at right now?
Yeah. I think it's a great time to introduce where my mindset really started to change. When I came back from my second deployment, I was still very much in I am going to become a warrant officer. I am going to, do something special. I was looking at a lot of special, mission units and other opportunities that would allow me to just go and do something super duper cool. And I wanted to go do those things. So that's where my mind was. And I was, looking at different opportunities and trying to do things, and doors just kept getting closed in my face, man. They're like, MOS shortages at your unit. You can't go nowhere. You're fenced in. You need more time doing whatever for you to be a warrant officer. So sorry, you can't be a warrant officer. Hey, I remember I was scheduled to go do an assessment, and the dude who was scheduled, he hit me up and said, hey, cancel everything. Something happened with your unit or your MOS, and you can't go anywhere. So all these doors are getting closed in my face. And then I saw that Cybercom launched. And I looked at Cybercom and I was like, man, I can be an intel analyst, but in cyberspace, that'd be super cool. And I remember looking at the requirements and they were like, you need 4 years of IT experience for you to do it. I said, where am I going to get 4 years of IT experience, man? Where's that going to come from? And I started to think to myself, well, like, what do I need to do? I was in college at the time. I was like, what do I need to do to start to develop some of that? And I sat down and I put on, there was when Samsung's they had those Oculus goggles where you put your phone in. I had one that I don't really play games that much, but I was like, let me put it on just to see what's going on. And they had this thing about hacking. And I was like, you're like a hacker. And on the side panel, it had some news articles that they kind of made up. Right. But one of them said quantum computing is now a normal thing and it is impossible for anyone to stop it, or hackers are using it to do bad things. So I was like, is that real? And I remember I went and I did some research and found out that quantum computing is a thing, that it's not yet viable, but it is a thing, and its potential is very significant, both for the good and for nefarious actors, right? And I was like, how can I position myself well for this? I wrote a little paper on it that talked about quantum computing and its impacts on national security. And in that process, my mind started to turn. I'm like, man, what if I built a team that all we did was, as white hat hackers, go and help organizations identify where they're vulnerable, and we can still, like, I'll just do it myself. I don't need to, I'll just build something on my own and I'll just do it. That's what's going to happen.
This is all while you were in, right? Like all these.
This is while I was in.
Paper that you wrote, all this is while you were, okay.
This is while I was in still. And it's just my mind turning and thinking about things, right? And if my dad, he planted a seed before I joined the military. It's probably 2 years before I joined the military or so. Every summer I would go to the Bahamas. He was stationed at the embassy, and he would have me work at the embassy, helping people do passport things. And then one time I was at his house, man. He comes to me and he says, "Son, I have done everything that I can do as an employee to make sure that we maximize." He has 3 retirement checks. He, maxing out his retirement funds. He's like, "I've done everything as an employee that you can do in this country." He came from Panama. My dad and my mom came from Panama, and I was born here in the States with my brothers, right? So my dad goes, "Now it's your turn to take whatever I've done, take it to the next level." And I'm like, "How do I do that?" Right? And he says, "You don't have to think about it." And he gave me the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, right? Now, what's funny is that I wasn't much of a reader back then, and I didn't even read the book all the way. I remember I got to the point of the book where Robert Kiyosaki was talking about, buy 3 houses, hotel, buy 3 houses, then a hotel. You need to be invested. My rich dad told me this. My rich dad told me that. My rich dad told me this. And it was just that little bit where I was like, is that really a thing that you can just create your own success like that? And I just tucked it away. Fast forward 11 years, and here I am thinking now I want to start something on my own. Okay, so I've got this grand idea. My soldiers are laughing at me because I'm whiteboarding what it would look like and how it would work. I've got the idea, guys. This is how it's going to work. They thought I was kidding about it. And then I'm looking for the retirement NCO. So I leave my building. I'm planning my exit. And as I'm going to look for retirement NCO, I go to the wrong building in USASOC, right? I walk in, I get scanned or whatever. I walk in the doors. I'm like looking around. And I see this dude running. He might as well have been running, but he was moving, man. And I grabbed him and I said, "Hey, sir, I'm looking for the retirement NCO. Am I in the right spot?" And he looks at me and says, "You may not be. It's in another building." And he asked me what I'm trying to do. And I said, I want to transition. And I'm looking at this. I actually wrote this paper. This is just kind of where my interests are. I'm feeling a real pull and a real drive to do these things. And he looks at me and goes, "Okay." He says, "What do you think about sitting down during lunch? And I can walk through some stuff with you." And I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah. I help soldiers transition out the military." It was Captain Mike Wolk and Mike Glaspie.
Yeah,
knows Mike Wolk. Mike Wolk was moving, bro. And I tell people this all the time. If I would have got out the car and just stopped to tuck my laces in, re-blouse my pants, I would have missed the opportunity to be right there at that very moment where Mike Wolk was, because he was, how he is, man. Mm-hmm. Right now he's at Cybercom doing some really incredible things. Major Wolk, incredible things. So we sat down for lunch, and he walked me through this process of what it looks like to transition out the military. And then he introduced me to the education system, the BWW education system. And that's where we, eventually ended up selling some Amway products, right? Joined the Amway organization. And, sometimes people hear that and obviously they have different ideas of what that is. But I think we were very fortunate in what we experienced, that it wasn't people just trying to make fast money, that it was people really trying to, create some real life change. And so we got to sit down and we got the personal growth benefit outside and additional to understanding how to just handle a no, how to try to sell things, how to build a team, how to try and, be in partnership with people. Like it, that was probably the most significant thing that happened in our lives that really positioned us to where we are right now. It equipped me with the soft skills that I needed. Soft skills for the folks that are in the military and they're sitting back thinking that they're going to transition and then land or whatever.
That's a really good point, because one of the things that you had 11 years of some very qualified and diversified experience, but the military unfortunately does not cater towards a lot of the soft skills required for that transition.
Right.
And I mean, you're right. I mean, that we met roughly around that same time. You were already a little bit seasoned, but you introduced me to some of those soft skills, because I was a very rigid, hard driven, here's the box, here's the calendar guy as well. Okay. All right. So what soft skills? Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah. Explain some of those soft skills real quick.
Yeah,
and then I had a couple of things that you touched on that I wanted to kind of figure out what that was as well. So, but go ahead.
Absolutely. The number one soft skill is straight up listening. Oh. As military dudes, our definition of listening sounds like this. I need you to stop talking and execute. I need you to listen. When you develop the skill for you as the individual, not the one that is leading other people. And there are phenomenal leaders in the military, but there are also leaders that they rely so heavily on the level one leadership, right? Like John C. Maxwell talks about the positional leader, that they've never gone from a level one to, I think level 3 is really the place where you really start to bloom. Are you guys familiar with that? The levels of leadership with John C. Maxwell, sort of, kind of. Level 1 is your positional leader. Level 2 is the leader relationship. Level 3 is your leader of I think it's like leader of production. And then level 4 is like you're now producing other leaders. And then your level 5 is a pinnacle leader. Like people follow you just because they hear your name and they've heard of you from other people. And John C. talks about when you become a level 1 leadership, you have authority. You're leading by authority because of the position that you're in. People have to listen to you. Now, as a military leader, how easy is it to rely so heavily on that you don't take the time to understand what it means to develop relationships with people? And in order for you to be in a good relationship, you have to understand how to listen. You have to understand how to listen to the people that you're leading. And this has been, man, I tell this story because when I was in Afghanistan, my first deployment, and I don't remember, Mike, I think I've shared it with you. But coming on the last few weeks of my deployment in Afghanistan, I remember that we had this soldier, and I went into the area where he was working, like a bunch of computers and stuff. I was like, hey man, what are you up to? And we're probably 2 weeks away from coming home. And this dude says, he looks at me and goes, don't have to talk to me. Kind of goes off. And I remember my first reaction, obviously I'm trained. This is how I've been trained to be a leader, is to respond to him with equal or greater force. So I said, when you talk to a non-commissioned officer, you're going to boom, boom, boom this, you're going to boom, boom, boom that, F and this, F and that. And then I walked away from that interaction, banging my chest like, he's never going to do that again. I just taught him a lesson. This is great. Okay. I go outside. I'm getting ready to go on a run with one of my senior NCOs. And I got my headphones on, man, and I'm stretching. He says, hey, I'm going to go to the latrine. I'll be right back. And, you guys have been over this. So they're like connexes, right? That have been changed into like latrines and stuff. So he goes into one of them. And I'm outside stretching. The music is playing. And I'm putting my shoes on. And as I'm stretching, man, I hear this pop sound. And I have no idea what it is. I turn around. I look at the guy who's working on a generator. He like stops and looks at me and goes. So I just kept tying my shoes, and obviously looking around, I'm tying my shoes. Had another NCO come out of these transition tents we were in. He walks behind me, goes into the latrine. He's in the latrine for a little bit. Then he comes out the latrine and says, "Don't let anyone in there. Someone just blew their head off in the latrine." Okay. So I wait. Here comes chaplain, sergeant major, the colonel, the whole medics. They all run out there. They're going to the latrine. He comes out and says, "Man, it was so-and-so, the soldier that I last spoke to at that very moment." Now, I used to carry that around with me and really just, I took responsibility for that, right? Carrying a lot of shame and guilt around what happened. And I've heard people have told me, "Hey, Mike, you don't have to, don't feel bad about that because, if he was going to do it, he was going to do it anyways. He was already there." You guys know how serious suicide is in our community. If he was going to do it, he was going to do it anyways, man. And that for a little bit, I thought that makes sense. And it wasn't until I started to develop some of the soft skills that I understand now to understand that that's not true. And not only, it wasn't just the soft skills, because another major area of my life is my belief in God. I am Christian. And when you have a power that is outside of yourself, there is something that comes, it's a different kind of way that you view the world and you view people. And so that was a hard lesson that Mike Ford had to learn, because I did not have the skills to really truly be in relationship with people the way that God has said, this is how you should be in relationship with people. You love the golden rule, right? Love your God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind, and then you love your neighbors the same way you love yourself. Okay. That the soft skills that would have protected or that would have changed the trajectory of that very moment. The number one soft skill is listening. And the thing is that it's not like, I know we've heard things about, active listening and nodding your head and repeating what they're saying at the end of a sentence, because that's how you demonstrate that you're listening. That it's not about like a bunch of skills in listening. I think the thing that I've had to work on, which has been evident in my relationship with my wife, because our marriage was all kinds of crazy too, and it didn't get better until I started to develop these things, was that people have a problem expressing two things. One, they have a problem clearly articulating what they feel emotion-wise. How many emotions do we have in the military? Probably a handful of them. Right? And if no time has been spent improving your emotional quotient, your EQ, your emotional intelligence, you are going to step out into this world with a handful of emotions that translate to something else when you're talking to people out here. They don't mean that you don't move people with 5 emotions. You're going to be making the same mistakes if everything you label is one of those 5 emotions. You're going to be taking the wrong action every single time, and you're going to be confused as to why you cannot transition or you don't fit in wherever you're going. We can't articulate emotions, and it's because we just don't have enough words in our vocabulary. Emotional granularity, there's not enough words. The second thing is that we have a very hard time expressing what we need. So if I have mastered telling you that I feel, how many, you've heard people say things like, I feel, and then they give you this whatever kind of thing instead of saying, I feel an emotion. I feel like you shouldn't have done this, that, and the other, instead of I feel hurt or I feel agitated, I feel betrayed because I think, and then you fill in the blank because you're feeling what your emotions are based off of what you think. But after you've mastered that, the next thing is, how do you then share with somebody that this is what I need? This is what I need. And will you partner with me to help me get there? Now, as someone who is listening in that space, you're listening for what people are feeling and for what they're needing. When I stepped out of the military, and anytime I sat down either with someone for a job or an organization I wanted to work for, I sat down and I was listening to what is it they needed. What do you need? What do you need? How can I bring my skill set to the table and help, match or whatever, help get in there, add value to the organization. What do you need? It's not about what I've accomplished at that point.
So
right.
I love that you shared that. And I want to thank you for sharing that story, because that's a sense of vulnerability that, one, a lot of service members don't want to express, and two, a lot of men don't want to express. And let's be honest, the majority of our audience is men.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to work on myself personally for opening up for stories and situations like that too, because many people don't realize that in the military, there are several events that cause us to experience emotional changes in our life, right? That comes out in depression, PTSD, suicidal thoughts, and things of that nature. And we don't necessarily, those that go to combat, that's one separate piece of it. Others that don't go to combat still have their own experiences. And the simple fact that, understanding how to communicate better, I think that's great for leadership. Absolutely. That's great for a human being just in general. And more importantly, and I'm not excluding women, but men as a norm, we have a very difficult time expressing ourselves. So again, I want to thank you for sharing that story. And I hope that resonated with the majority of the audience. And I also love how you said that's how, understanding that skill set, that is how you moved into finding those positions of employment or opportunities to start your own career and things like that, because you simply asked those who are hiring, what is it that you need? All right. And on that same token, you also went through a certification process, correct?
The MSSA program.
Talk to us about that.
Obviously, so remember I was talking about having the 4 years of IT experience, and when I was going through the transition, first off, you don't have to do anything alone, man. Like when it's time to transition, you don't have to do anything alone. There are so many resources available. It's overwhelming sometimes. But the amount of time that you need, if you're retiring and you can start your transition process, I think 2 years out, do it. If you're getting out, you're not retiring, I think you have 1 year from the transition date, like start that process and be prepared to fight your unit for the time to go do that. And be ready that when they say no, or they come up with whatever detail that they just made up at that time for you to go be a part of, that you are ready to tell them, this is the regulation for this thing. And if you all are not willing to follow those things, all I'm doing is I'm following the rules in the book. That's all I'm doing, man.
I want to highlight that, because that's a really good point right there. So everybody understand that when you're ready to transition out, guess who cares? Nobody. So for them, when they get a detail that comes down the chain of command, which they always do, they're going to look for free bodies. Guess who's the free body? The person trying to transition out, right? And so just like Mike Ford said, there's a regulation, there is a guideline that the military must follow for transitioning members. They must be allowed to pursue X, Y, and Z. So it's very important that you understand what you're allowed to do so you can stand up, because I'll tell you what, just because they're a major, a captain, a lieutenant colonel at that time, don't be disrespectful, but don't be afraid to say, sir, ma'am, this is what the regulation is, and I'm just simply following protocol.
I can definitely speak to that is an excellent point. I can definitely speak to that. I have several soldiers that go through transition at the same time, even when I was a commander. And you're right. I mean, the easy person for a first sergeant or the senior NCO to choose is the person that's likely not going to be around for longer. It doesn't make any sense to put him, on a range when he's leaving in 4 months. What's his qualification going to do? Whatever that thing is, just using that as an example. But if you say, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is my plan and I need this X, Y, and Z, then that's different, you know what I mean? And that's one of the reasons why I ask you, hey, there's a lot of people that don't have plans. So those people are extremely susceptible to saying, no, whatever, I'll go do the, I'll go do the, and then I'll figure it out afterwards. So it's extremely important to have that plan. a year, 2 years, even as soon as you are even thinking about ETS. And honestly, I think as soon as you come into the military, you should have some kind of plan.
Have an exit plan, right?
Exactly. Exactly the same thing with real estate, right? You know,
Yeah.
make your money on the buy, right? You go into the military, you're going to make your money going in the military if you have that plan, you know, and
Right.
there's some wiggle room, you know, you got some left and right limits that you can kind of swag a little bit, but for the most part, you know, as soon as you figure it out, you need to start backwards planning and starting to execute that plan on your way out, whether you're ETS or retiring.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I would tell anybody, right? If someone said, hey, you know, Mike, what's the thing that prevents people from planning, or what's the thing that prevents people from, you know, just taking more ownership in that space, is that I would say that they're just conditioned to believe that they really are, you know, Sergeant, PFC, something, last name, or you are first letter of your last name, last four of your social. They'll value and the worth it's kind of been lost because you have just been clumped in with, you know, the same camouflage, the same, you know, bags, the same armor, the same everything, and your sense of individuality has been lost in that. And so what happens is when they come to the transition, to them, they're just like, you know, it's not really that important. I mean, they're going to do this anyways, or this is, you know, this always happens anyway. So I'm just going to let the army do whatever it does to me. I had a soldier one time, a very good friend of mine, she was getting out and she was looking at the VA stuff, right? And she didn't want to pursue the VA stuff seriously because she was like, oh, you know, I'm not really hurt. Nothing's really bothering me. I'm okay. And I look at her, I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, you have no idea what has happened, you know, to the time that you've been into your body, to you emotionally, to you mentally, to you physically. That will catch up later on. And the other thing is, her other thing was, well, you know, because I'm not really her, well, I don't really deserve any of that stuff. I don't really want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, so the value for herself is not there. So I told her, I said, listen, if you really believe that, go through the process anyways. Yes. When you get your rating, I want you to take that money and go give it away. Go give it away. Go put it in, go give it to other veteran organizations that you feel really deserve that. Go do that. And long story short, it's been years now. And she's been able to transition. She was 100%, right? Got out. She transitioned. They started to compensate her. And she has been able to live life without worrying about how she's going to feed herself every day. And has been able to focus on building a copywriting business using the resources that she got from when she transitioned from the VA stuff.
See, and for those who don't know, we put out a video not too long ago about how to get 100% with the VA. And just like Mike said, it's primarily about just filing, guys, because it clearly states what the military has caused or made worse. Okay. And you do not know what has changed. But I do want to highlight, man, you said something that I think is so enlightening in the fact that we know this to be a fact, right? The military essentially teaches us to be one band, one sound. We're one team, one unit. It is the needs of the many always outweigh the needs of the few.
Right.
But I never really thought about it, even in the psychological approach that you just did. All wearing the same uniform. We are called by our rank and last name. You know, we have the same equipment, the issuance sequence, everything we attend, whether it's our medical or it's our equipment issue, it's an assembly line.
Yep.
We're literally and you're right, by us being essentially groomed to think that we are one unit. When it is time to transition, it's very difficult for individuals to say, how am I going to survive without this?
Right.
You know, I'm leaving the host. How am I going to, you know what I'm saying, go out here and survive?
Exactly.
And that's a really good point. I never even thought of it in that picture, but that's exactly what many of us go through during that transition. We're scared because we don't know what to do when we leave the family.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
And you know, it's funny because You just said we're scared. And how many people are willing to honestly say that? We've been taught the whole guys. I mean, I remember I was sitting at the table talking to Penny about something, man. There was something that was going on. And I was just, for some reason, I started thinking about the very first time that I volunteered to deploy. And the NCO, my senior NCO at the time, I mean, he was a great guy. We're still in touch, Sam Rogers. And I remember I'm sitting down. He was really taking care of me. I mean, the character of this dude. I got to the unit and I was like, I'm in love with this girl in AIT. I'm gonna go back and watch her graduate. He's all like, you don't want to do that. I'm like, yeah. I said, yeah. Sergeant Roger, yeah, man. Like, I love this girl, man. Let me go back and he's like, I tell you what, I'm gonna pay for your flight, for your hotel, and for everything. You go out there, I'll see you when you get back. Sure enough, I went out there, came back with my head hung low. Right? Because anyways, but he's an incredible dude. So he tells me, I remember sitting down when I volunteered to go, and we've developed this really nice, real cool relationship, man, where he looks at me kind of like a little brother. He's taking care of me. And he's all like, hey, the unit's getting ready to go. They need one analyst. And there's other 3 analysts at the table. I'm like looking around. No one's saying anything. And I'm like, and he looks at me, and all he does, he looks at me and goes, that look of like, I am concerned, but I knew you were going to be the one to say it. I know. And it's something that unfortunately, like, you have to do it. You have to have that experience. And why do I say, I think he was like, you have to have the experience? I think because you don't necessarily take how important your job is until it's in a situation where it is tangible, the results, if you don't do a good job, So, and I just got engaged or just got married. Right. So he's like, man, I remember telling this story to Penny and telling her, as I'm talking about it, I just start sobbing. I'm like, now here it comes. I'm crying. And she's like, yeah. She's like, what are you feeling? I was like, I think I was just really scared. I was just scared, but I didn't say anything. I just did it because everyone was, like that's what was expected of me. Like, I just did it. Every time I jumped out of a plane, I was scared.
Scared as shit. I hate heights. Every 50 some odd jumps. I'm just
scared. I would get on commercial flights and be terrified, Mike, on a regular plane. Commercial, thinking to myself, I've got no chute on. These fools have no idea how to navigate this thing. We're going down. This is it. I was scared, man. And because some of us most of us are, we've been taught to just suck it up, be brave, and go do things. And that's important, man. There's a lot of incredible men and women that have made these awesome, they write stories about them, right? The sacrifices that they've made. All right. And it's incredible acts of bravery, selfless bravery, courage. Yes.
They say that courage is not the absence of fear. It's acting in the face of fear, right? Still taking that action. And to kind of bring that into life, I think because people see individuals, it could be us, it could be anybody else, do something and accomplish something.
Right.
They feel like there was no fear. There was no doubt. There was no anything. Yeah. And everything, as an entrepreneur, as an individual who goes out against the grain, they don't stick with the norm. Everything is fear. Transitioning out of the military, starting your own business, moving to a new city, getting married, right? Having kids, all these things, you're scared. And I don't know, Dan, were you scared when the kids were about to pop out?
Well, we don't have any kids yet, man.
What about Dan's got two?
But when we got married, yeah. You know what I'm saying? When we got married, when we moved in together, when Penny and I decided that we were going to start working on kids, like how we are now. Yeah. Like I ask questions all the time. Like, how do I be a good father? That's a different responsibility, a different level of responsibility.
Different. And what about you, Dan? When the kids were about to pop out?
There's a lot of points in, I think, everyone's life where there's going to be I mean, every single thing you do is essentially a risk for the most part. So
Right.
you're deciding there's an opportunity cost involved, right? If you do X, you're missing out on Y, right? And same thing with joining the military is easy, getting out of the military is easy. Obviously, having kids, you guys probably don't know this. If you look up my name and then look up Fort Stewart and like baby, like we delivered our baby on the side of the road, like our first child. Like you talk about scared.
Wow.
I didn't know what was I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So look up Dan Wynn Fort Stewart baby. You're going to see the article. We were in the newspaper, on the TV and stuff like that. So yeah, man, there's a lot of the first time you do anything, there's going to be a sense of I don't know what the heck is going on. I mean, you think Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or any Grant Cardone, anyone you can think of, right?
Yeah.
Everyone started from something and they had no idea what the heck they're doing. And as they outgrow themselves, they still really don't know what they're doing, because they're all figuring out for the first time. There's no specific blueprint for anyone's life, right? So everything you're doing, you're just gonna figure it out along the way. So you shouldn't feel that way. But what I want to do is I want to give these. I mean, you mentioned so much great stuff and you gave so much powerful mindset and just great information for those soldiers out there listening, right? What I want to do is try to help give them some actionable steps, right? So we talked about some of the things that they can definitely do to prepare themselves for getting out of the military. Soft skills. We talked about listening. We talked about, being able to express yourself and communicate effectively, right? And you also mentioned some great resources that are available. What are some of those things? Like, let's kind of give these guys some, if you could give some steps, right? So we talked about developing the soft skills. What about some of those great resources that you think that they need to really kind of hone in on and kind of, what I really want to do is kind of help lead people to essentially do what you're doing. Let's say I'm not an entrepreneur, right? Right now, I'm not an entrepreneur, but I want to get out. And I want to use my skills, prepare myself to get out and get a 6-figure job like everyone talks about, right?
Yeah.
What are those things that I really need to be focusing on and how can I get there?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to mention real quick, I know we're kind of cutting it close on the time and stuff, but I do have a business, Trinity Data Solutions and IT Services. Our business is selling IT. Listen, Mike Ford, no IT background, none of that stuff. That's what I do as a business now. My customers are the federal government, state and local governments. We are pursuing contracts, taking advantage of our the service disabled, veteran things that we can get our business certified as to be able to compete in a pool of contracts that other companies can't because they're not small and they don't have our socioeconomic statuses. So maybe we could have gotten into that, but I think it's really important.
That now. I don't care if this thing goes longer. Let's get into this because I think this is super important. So maybe I misunderstood. I knew that you were doing contracting and you were resourcing out contracts from the government with your own business. But at the same time, I thought you were doing it on the side in conjunction with like a regular 40. Can you kind of go over that? So maybe I'm just a little.
Yeah, no worries. Right. And that was my fault. I didn't bring it up at the beginning. So when I transitioned, the first job was on Bragg doing IT stuff. They told me, can you install SQL Server? I said, I don't know. They said, here's a YouTube video. We'll see you on Monday. That was based on my networking ability. Just so y'all know, that's how I got my first job. Less than 12 months later, they were asking me, we need to deploy an application to Lexington, Kentucky. We've got a customer out there. Will you fly out there and go? I said, absolutely. I'll fly out there and go do it. Nothing I'd never done before. Let me go. So I'm flying out there, met a guy. The guy said, hey, I've got a lot of things I'm working on. I said, you don't have enough hands. Are you looking for somebody else to come and help you out? He was like, serious? I said, yeah, man, I'm serious. He's like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. I made an impression. I asked that after a couple of trips. That wasn't my first day there, a couple of trips, developing a relationship. And then he gave me a call on the phone and said, what was somebody with skill set A through Z, which were all the skill sets that I had, what would that person, if we were to create a position, ask for starting wise? He's like, does 120 sound like a good place for somebody like that? And I'm like, that's a great place to start.
My God.
A great place to start. Right. So anyways, They created a position for me. The position was not around. It was because of all the things I talked about earlier, being able to develop a relationship, identify what they need, letting them demonstrating how my skill set falls in there, that they were like, we need to create this position in this organization for this dude specifically. I ghosted the requirements. And that also applies to government contracting. You ghost requirements. So when it comes out available to the open market, it's written as if it's just for a single company. That's exactly what I did. And that's how I got the job there. Less than 12 months. Now, while I'm there, another warrant officer comes, and he's also at the organization. He goes, hey, man, I got a buddy of mine. I know you're always into this business stuff. You do a lot of talking. I see you teaching. We launched a bunch of meetup groups where we're 300 plus people. We're teaching personal growth development classes. I'm teaching salsa lessons at my church, all kinds of crazy things going on, right? Yeah, man, getting into the community. And that's the other thing. When they transition, find a place to plant your roots and get in the community. Get in the community. That's where home is at. Home is in the community. You got to develop you got to put your roots in, get tied into the community. So he tells me, I have a friend of mine who started a business. He put his wife in charge. It's a woman-owned business now. And she basically contracts him out to go do work for him. And they make millions of dollars. And I'm like, really? That sounds like one of those get quick rich things. He's all like, don't believe me? Go look. And I did.
Sounds like one of those things you hear in the barracks when they're like,
right,
my cousin, he just got out as a E3, and he's a millionaire because of the skills that he learned while he was a
yeah. So he tells me, so I said, okay, I'm gonna go check it out, man. And I got introduced to government contracting, learned about what the process looks like, learned about why the government will compensate you so much to go do things. They got guys that build screws, right? You are a screw maker, and you're like, how are you gonna be a millionaire making screws, man? Well, when you're making screws for airplanes that need screws, all of a sudden you're being awarded $1 million contracts just to make screws, so there's a space in there for every sort of job, every sort of skill. You have to understand how to build your NAICS, how to get registered on SAM, how to navigate some of the bureaucracy, and the resources that are available for you to learn that. Every city, I think, has a local SBA, right? A small business association, has some kind of chapter, or maybe a small business development center. That's stop one. Anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, that's the first thing you do. Go find your SBA, go find the SBDC, or you can go online if you want to do the government contract and stuff. It's called a PTAC, a procurement technical, acquisition center or something like that. But those are people who have been government contracting for more than 20 years. And they essentially, it's a free service that the government provides to you because they want you to build a business. They want you to be successful. And they walk you through the entire process, A to Z, how to get started, how to move your business and all that.
That's
stuff.
For service members that you're talking about, the PTAC?
That's for anybody.
Okay.
Anybody.
That's for anybody.
Anybody that wants to get into government contracting. Okay,
if you guys have seen the movie War Dogs.
Yes.
The War Dogs is literally, they're arms dealers. They're legal in the beginning, then they get shady towards the end, but they are literally bidding out government contracts. And if you watch it, same thing like Mike's talking about, it may be a contract for ammunition. And you may be like, ammunition? Well, anybody can do that. Yes, but if the government can come to one source and get all of their needs for the cheapest bid, well, then the government will pay millions upon millions of dollars for that source, just like Mike was saying with the screws. So I didn't even know that the PTAC was a thing. I just wrote that down because I'm about to find a way to make real estate a government contract.
I tell you what, one of the things too that's really interesting is that when you look at how the government makes decisions, so they have regulation, right? The federal acquisition regulation. They have DFARS and all kinds of regulations. If you guys go to acquisition.gov, you can see a lot of those regulations and stuff. But what they talk about in there is there's a threshold of where they need permission to make purchases. Now, that threshold outside of an emergency situation, I believe that threshold is $250,000. That means that it's called a simplified acquisition procedure. That means that for them to make a purchase, generally someone takes a card and goes, now, $250,000. What little widgets are being sold in that range that someone can just go, and that's it? No paperwork, no additional approvals, none of that stuff. In an emergency situation, like in this middle of the pandemic, that dollar amount was increased, I think, to something like $1 million. So if you understand, right, the first place to go, start a business period, SBA, SBDC, they have mentors for free that'll work with you. Your PTAC for free that'll work with you. Right now in the military, the biggest thing you need to be worrying about as you're transitioning is, I need to take care of myself medically. The VA process is so important. If you guys haven't watched that video by Mike on YouTube, like watch that. Like watch that process, take notes. I'm sure they're open to getting in touch and helping people. Like watch the video, because that is what's going to relieve the stress and pressure that you are going to feel, thinking that you're not going to have another paycheck for the rest of your life. And you've been getting taken care of for so long that you're like, how am I going to do it? That is going to relieve the stress and things off of you. Universities in your area, some of them might offer entrepreneur programs where they have scholarships or those type of things for veterans. I just recently completed a program through the University of Louisville. That's the right way to say Louisville, by the way. It's Louisville. I had to work on that for months. They had a program called the Lean, or the Launch It program. It's the Lean Startup, the business model canvas, but the lean version of it. And they had guys on there that Fortune 10 company startup owners, guys that founders and sold their businesses, founding another business, and they're on there teaching you how to go through that process. And it was free, because being a service member, I'm able to leverage those programs that are out there for you, right? But I didn't know about it until I was a part of my PTAC, and my PTAC was the one that sent an email, said this program is going on for veterans. Go check it out. PTAC, phenomenal source. SBA, SBDC, PTAC, take care of your VA stuff pronto. Don't wait on that. And I don't care if you up to this point, you might have been telling yourself, it ain't nothing, it doesn't hurt, I'm going to push through it. The transition is not the time to pretend that nothing hurts.
Just want to, like, because we've been talking a lot about that, about the VA process, and Mike put out, when I tell you that video is awesome, dude, that video is absolutely amazing. It's actually like our most popular video in the past like couple months. I don't know if you know, but that thing's been doing numbers, because it's so important. Like, that information is so important, and on top of that, it's not talked about very often. So Mike kind of he lays out, because Mike just recently went through this process, right? So he lays out step by step exactly what you need to do, starting to document your stuff, the people you need to talk to, and the follow-up things as well. Now when you listen to this, understand, we're not advocating, hey, just go try to, and Mike said that in the video too. Right. We're not advocating, hey, to try to claim some stuff that doesn't really matter. We're talking directly to those people that have that mindset of suck it up. It's not bad. You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you something. And my dad worked for the VA for a long time, actually. And he was actually one of those people that were helping to file those claims. A lot of people, they come back, they had a knee injury, right? And they ETS. And then guess what? A year later or 2 years later, their knee is throbbing, or their knee is literally blown out. Now, this is something that was service related, but they decided to suck it up. Now they're out, and they're not doing as much physical activity. They're not doing as much stuff, and their knee is just on fire. That's just just an example, right? So please go watch that video, definitely. But I love what you said there.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier about us having kids, right? Well, for some reason, we're both healthy, everything's functioning, no kids are showing up. So I go to the VA and I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, it's something I addressed momentarily when I was in the military. Nothing's really come of it. And they're like, okay, well, let's do some preliminary. Up to this point, we can help you. And then after that, it's kind of out of your pocket, unless it's something that's attached to service. I said, okay. So I sat down. They did a ultrasound, right? They take the same thing they do checking babies and stuff. They can do that for your test. Am I allowed to say testicles on here? Your testicles.
Go for
Is
it.
that okay? Testicles are okay. All right, here we go. So they do an examination, man, and they go in and they're looking to see if anything is going on. The lady looks at me and goes, "Looks like there's some trauma to one of your testicles." And I'm like, "Interesting." And she goes, "And it looks like, some other varicose, you know what varicose veins are? Mm-hmm. Apparently, this is something that impacts men that between the ages of 15 and 25, 40% of men, and they don't know it's a problem until they actually start trying to have kids. And they're like, why can't I have any kids? Well, it's because what's the vein called? The tube, the vas deferens, that it can develop a varicose vein on the vas deferens, and it'll pinch that tube so no viable sperm can go through. And you will think that there's nothing wrong with you, right? And that can get worsened, right? Depending on what kind of things that you're doing physically and whatever else.
So that's a perfect example. That's a perfect example of just seeing what the military could have made worse. And that's why you should go check it out.
Made worse.
Absolutely.
Could have made worse. So I've got it's funny because I got a 1,400 appointment right now. Guess what? I'm going to go get looked at.
Varicose veins.
Yeah, man. Doc, I got trauma. I don't know where or when it happened. Don't ask me for details because I'm telling you right now, I got no shame about some of the things I did. And I don't think you want to hear all that. So, yeah. But the point of all that is that take the VA thing seriously, man. Get ahead of it. Take it seriously. The things you think are hurting. If you're 1 year out, man, it's the time where any ache or pain that you have, take your butt to the medic, to sick call, wherever you need to go. Hey, this hurts me. I don't care if it's a little ache, man. This hurts me. It needs to be documented.
Absolutely. And that's just one of the many programs. And I wrote down now the SBA, I was very familiar with the SBA and the SBDC, but the PTAC is new to me. So now I'm going to dig all into that. Well, obviously we'll make a video about that once we kind of figure all that out. Looking up acquisition.gov to understand the thresholds. Now I know that 250,000 is pretty much just a swipe on the card. I'm going to start offering services for 100,000. I'm gonna try to get five a year now that I know, you know what I mean? But yeah, and then there's tons of other programs, and that's something that we can also make a video out so the audience knows. I mean, it goes on and on from internship programs to those certification programs, so forth and so on. And I mean, this is a perfect example of a man who came in, had no idea what you wanted to do in the beginning. You took a path, you get to it's time to transition, and now all of your years of experience, you still had to learn something right before that transition. You still had to learn those soft skills. And then you took those soft skills and you created your own destiny on the transition, which I think is that right there is probably the most important message of this entire episode for everybody who's listening, is to understand that the skill sets you learn in the military do set you up. But it's still your responsibility to take it that step further, refine it, and then go create, your own destiny.
Yeah, you got to. You absolutely got to. And on that same note, at my first job, when I got there, they said, hey, this is what you're doing with databases and stuff. Man, I would go and I do whatever they told me to do, but my mind is thinking to myself, I am right now. I referenced a story in the Bible, man, the story of Joseph thrown into a well. His brother was trying to get rid of him because he was bragging about this awesome, sweet robe that he got and these crazy dreams he was having about how they were all going to bow down to him, and they wanted to kill him. But then they changed their heart and they dump him in a pit. So then he gets sold, to this leader, to I think it's the Pharaoh in Egypt, man. And listen, I'm not a theologian, so I'm gonna give you the cliff notes.
There was a whole movie on it.
Yeah. Go watch the movie. But the idea was that what happened when he was in prison there, he had an opportunity to learn how to be the leader that he eventually where he was put in charge of a whole bunch of things, right? He had an opportunity in the middle of captivity, in being a prisoner, being in that dude's house. He had an opportunity to use somebody else's resources to develop a skill set he needed to lead, to develop a skill set he needed to be a better whatever it was, right? And I use that example because in my life, whenever I'm somewhere, I'm looking around, I'm all like, I'm looking at right now 4 switches that are stacked up in the office, you know, I'm like, each one of those switches is $25,000 each. There's $100,000 of equipment sitting right here, not in use. Over here, we've got these servers. We've got this thing that I said, they're not in use. What's going on? And I asked questions like, what's going on? So like, you know, just stuff that, you know how the government can be a little wasteful. They're like, no, just stuff that we just have kind of sitting around, haven't really gotten to. Can I take that and build a lab? Yeah, absolutely. And now I built a lab where I'm practicing skills and I'm up leveling my skills. So now the next position, I was ready when I went over to fly out and help this dude with what he needed. Because I sat and I exposed myself to the things that we were using at the moment on someone else's dime. You know? So I don't know why but I wanted to share that. Sometimes we get into a place where we're just like, okay, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Yeah. But I mean, you got plenty of opportunity, lots of resources, someone else's dime to become very, very good at what you want, not what you do, but what you want to do. You gotta love the military for that, because there's a lot of things you get to do on the military time, you know, and legally too. Cause like I jumped out of a plane. I never, ever, ever would have paid to jump out of a plane myself. And yet the military paid me to do it. Right. Or flying a helicopter. And things of that nature. Yeah. So you gotta love that. Now we do gotta wrap this up. Yeah. I know we ran a little long.
Before we wrap up, I just got one more question, because we kind of left off there when we were talking about what you were building, right? So you went and you got. I just want to get the full story now, because I'm sure people out there like listening, like, oh man, where did it left off at? All right, so you went up there to Louisville and you started working, and then where was the transition to where you actually created your own service?
Yeah. So we live in Lexington, Kentucky. That's where I flying out here and work with an organization out here supporting them. That's where I work now. The transition, the start of my business, I'm still working 40 hours a week. I'm still doing it, still employed. That money, I use that to feed my cash cow. Y'all know that. You guys know the routine, right? Robert Kiyosaki. You go from being an employee, self-employed, you build your business asset, and the money that comes off of that business asset is what you use to then invest into real estate or anything else. Like, that's what you use that money, because that money is much more. It's taxed differently. It's a lot more of it. So I'm still working 40 hours. And it was in that where I just started learning, man. Whenever I have free time, let me go learn on lunch. Let me go learn. And I just started pursuing stuff hard, man. Started pursuing stuff real hard. And it's funny because the director of the organization, he and I have a tremendous relationship. And that dude is he is very supportive. He's even been like, hey, we've got some things coming up. What do you guys think about helping us here, helping us there, doing that? I'm like, I don't think that's all legal, but we can at least, I really appreciate you guys thinking about us like that, because
you mean like hiring your business
to go do some stuff, but we're in the organization, what I'm saying? And we can't do that. But it's just the fact, again, comes with the ability of developing and maintaining good relationships with people that they want you to succeed. There are people out there that want you to succeed. And if you just position yourself right, you kind of get yourself in their good graces, and they'll take care of you. So that's where we launched our business, and we just been growing it ever since. Our first contract was with the city of Lexington, Kentucky. How did that go down? I was looking at where contract opportunities come out, right? The open market. But I also learned, remember I said earlier, people have to create a position for you. If nothing exists, they'll create something for you if you're if the skill set you have is valuable enough. So I just hit them up, called them up. Hey, I've been looking, what's going on? They said, we've got nothing. They're like, then someone hit me up and said, hey, I got your information from somebody else. We're looking to buy laptops. Can you guys do that for us? got the laptops, man. Bought the laptops, took the price of those laptops, increased it by X amount of percent, sold the laptops to them. They sent me a check. And now, you know, that's I think it was like a little over $1,000 profit. May not seem like a lot, but that my foot's in the door.
That's the proof of concept.
That's it. Yeah. Proof of concept. They hit me back again, another laptop set. And then I asked, I need another opportunity. They said, here's the CIO, here's the director of computer services. Get on a call with them. And now we're waiting for a response on a potential multi-million-dollar contract that we submitted a proposal for less than 30 days ago. So we doing good over here. You know what I'm saying? We eating real nice over here.
That's great.
I love it, man. God, I love it.
Yeah. I love that you like all those principles. I mean, we talked about the Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you guys listen to enough of our episodes, you'll see it's kind of like that book is kind of a recurring theme, right? You know, another book that you guys probably need to read. You definitely need to check out The Elite Investor. Quick plug out there. You know what I mean? I think that's gonna.
I'm like, where's my copy? My copy's over here on the bookshelf, man.
I think that's soon going to be a. Yeah, there you go.
Hold up. I'm still Mike. I'm telling you, man. Find that lady that you felt bad about the deal that went upside down.
Yeah, I've actually been looking for it, man. I have.
Find her and just to close that part of your experience with her, it'd be real cool to kind of hear that, you know, it'd be real cool. And I think it'd be a beautiful thing to be able to turn around and be like, hey, this is what I promised you. And over the years, this much interest has occurred on it. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Just an idea.
Yeah. I think that this book is going to be a one of those other kind of like Robert Kiyosaki-esque books.
Absolutely.
We get the masses out there reading it. So it's good.
Absolutely.
Stuff. But yeah, so I love everything that you've done. You've been able to apply those principles, and you're just upbeat attitude, man. You got a great energy about you as well, man. So I can see how it's very easy for, or maybe you have did a lot in working with that communication. But I mean, it's evident in the way that you present yourself. This is my first time meeting you. For those out there who don't know, this is my first time meeting. I know Mike and Mike go go way back, but Dan and this Mike, this is the first time meeting. So, but you got that great energy about you, so I can see how that works well for you. But I love everything you're doing. I love the principle you applied and taking that from the military and put that to apply that to the business world, and really laying out a blueprint for others to follow. To put themselves in a very advantageous position. So it's good stuff, man. I love it. So got a question for you, right? If you could give only one piece of advice to another service member out there who is trying to do some of the things that you're currently doing, what would that one piece of advice be?
That one piece of advice would be that God is real, and you better find out who he is for you. And I mean that very seriously, because there are things that we've had to endure in the military that we don't talk about. We don't feel there's anybody else who really listens to that stuff, but there is. And God's very real. All the things that you think you have to take to your grave with you, you don't. You do not. You've been forgiven for that stuff, but you are going to have to go on that journey to find that on your own. And that's applicable for, obviously I believe one God, but are people who are Muslim and people who are, different kind of beliefs and things. I just think it's important that you know what the truth is and that you find that out. So that way you're not carrying something with you that you're not supposed to be carrying, and you end up taking your own life. I mean, that's really it. That's the biggest piece of advice I give anybody.
That's probably one of the most serious notes of advice that we've had on this show, man. And again, I truly do appreciate you being open and vulnerable enough to expose that and express that to the community. It's a very serious thing, guys. I mean, it's a serious thing. And Mike talked about it. I've talked about it too. I've struggled myself. And I think the more we speak about it and let it know that it is an actual issue, hopefully more people will be open about it and they will seek help in their own way. So I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Now, you shared some great knowledge, man. Great tips. When people want to reach out to you, because I guarantee you they do. They love your energy. They want to just speak to you. When they also want to learn more about this government thing, how you doing it, the transition, how can they reach you? What's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, the best way is going to be hit me up on email. You guys can send an email to mford, so Mike Ford, mford at tds-is.com. That's Tango Delta Sierra India Sierra.com. Send me an email. I have no issues getting on there, looking, scheduling time to sit down and, take 15, 20 minutes and walk people through whatever. And then also, I'm on Facebook hanging out. You guys can hit me up on there. I don't do a lot of things like online, really, not yet. I'm so focused on just the success that we're gaining with our business. And eventually I'll start talking about what we've gone through, so that way we can just start encouraging other people to do the same. So, but that's how you get in touch with me. Just hit me up, email. That's the best way to reach me.
Excellent.
Love it.
Excellent. Hey, man, it's been great. Very powerful, extremely useful information that you've put out and you've shared with us. Being candid and vulnerable, like we talked about with your stories and your background. And we really, really appreciate that. Hey, if you're listening out there and this story, this information made an impact, do us a favor, leave us a comment below. Let us know what was most impactful, right? I'm sure Mike will be on the YouTube or wherever the comments go. We'll try to make sure those kind of get back to him so he can answer those for you. And then also, like you said, just send him an email as well. So on all that contact information will be down below so you guys can use that. If you're watching this on YouTube, just hit a like, hit a share, because I know other soldiers out there could really use this information. And that is the key to growth. It's not just for military cash flow, but literally to help other soldiers' lives, right? If you're listening to this, you probably know this just as well as we know this, that this is a real thing. Mental health, spiritual health, and then also just helping with that, I guess, financial health, right? Helping with that transition process. And we kind of talked about all of those things within this episode. So I know that this could definitely help some other service members out there. So do us a favor, share the information. If you're listening to this on podcast, leave us a review. Other than that, that's about it. This is Dan Wynn.
And Mike Glassman.
Signing off.